There's a lot of things happening on the whole vaccine and mask mandate front, and I wanted to talk about some of them not because they're in the news, but because they interest me directly, and I think that everyone should be paying attention to what's happening. Pfizer got their vaccine approved by the FDA yesterday. The state of Washington, my home state, just reinstituted a mask mandate. There's mandates for vaccines being tossed about all over the place. New York City requires vaccines to go into most buildings. There's a lot going on here and a whole lot to unpack, and it's dividing people in a very big way. There's a story that I have pulled up right here. It's all over the place. This morning, 75 doctors walked out of a hospital in Florida, basically protesting all of the unvaccinated cases of COVID that they were getting there. And here's a quote by a doctor that really summarizes the politicization of what's going on. Let me read it real quick. It says, "The heartbreak now is that we're not just going into work and working long hours, but we're seeing people who don't need to be in the hospital, who are healthy and young, who don't have the comorbidities that we typically see. They're getting this from preventable illness." Okay, stop. As a healthcare graduate student, I recognize that our job is to help people get better. Just in very simple terms, is to help people get better. Most things that people suffer from are preventable. Someone can get a really bad case of the flu. It's like, well, why didn't you get your flu shot? Someone could break a bone. Somebody could, get into a fight and get hurt. There's all sorts of different things, accidents and just incidents that are preventable. They're not necessarily, people aren't just going out and getting hurt and getting sick on purpose. These are things that happen. And the way this is being framed is that, these people are stupid. If they had gotten this vaccine, then they wouldn't be in the hospital right now. We know that that's not the case based on the data. But beyond that, these doctors are abandoning their responsibility. Their responsibility is to help people get better. I understand the frustration, but the right answer is not to otherize people who choose not to get the vaccine. Your job as a healthcare professional is to help people get better. That's what it is. And again, I'm speaking as someone who, today was a clinic day. I tossed my scrubs over there. It's a long day. Graduate school's not a joke. I understand it's different. Being in school and doing clinic in school isn't exactly the same as working in the field. I get that. No need to jump down my throat. But I see it. I see what's going on. And this is just completely unacceptable. This is political posturing. I'm sad to see this happening. Another thing with all these, the key to NYC worries me a lot because Washington, especially Seattle, tends to be pretty far along on these types of things. More mask mandates, probably more vaccine mandates are what we're going to see in the future. Especially, I saw that today the administration, the federal government, is pushing for more mandates for vaccines. And I want to stop and talk as a healthcare professional about what's wrong with these vaccine mandates, like the key to NYC. So, you know what? Let me put my glasses on so I look a little smarter. There we go. Now I'm smart. Let's talk about the key to NYC. So, basically, what this is I believe it's an app that they require as documentation for you having your vaccine. Before you can enter lots of different types of buildings in New York City. The problem with this is that there's no medical exemptions whatsoever. There's no religious or medical exemptions, but I'm going to focus on the medical exemptions. So when people have a nervous system or an autoimmune disorder, something like MS, they cannot get the vaccine, or their doctor will often tell them they shouldn't. And it also applies when people have had cancer, if they're at risk for cancer, different allergies. They could be allergic to the ingredients in the vaccine, for example. And if you have a policy that says, well, anyone who doesn't have this vaccine can't come into this establishment, that establishment, a store, a bar, a restaurant, whatever, and there's no medical exemptions, you're literally violating legislation like the ADA, where you can't treat people different based on a disability. You are discriminating based on a disability if you have no medical exemptions. That's wrong. I believe you could make the case for discriminating on the basis of religion under the same types of laws. If someone has a religious exemption from getting vaccines, but that doesn't apply, then you're violating a law there. Now, the biggest thing to me, because from the minute I got into my graduate program, because in undergrad you don't really think about this stuff all that much until you get into your specific field and start working your way toward your eventual professional career. The thing that really makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up is the blatant HIPAA violation that this is. So when a person has any kind of medical history, medical procedure, a vaccination, anything like that, that's protected under HIPAA. That's between the person and their doctor. The medical professionals are not allowed to expose any of this information. This is between the person and the people treating them. You can't just tell somebody, you have to prove to me that you got the random doorman at a bar can't make a person say, you prove to me whether or not you got this medical procedure. That's illegal. That's in my opinion, that's illegal, or at least that's incorrect under HIPAA. That's a violation of HIPAA. You can't do that with anything else. Think of any other medical procedure. You can't do that. Employers can't do that. And in New York, employers, a lot of them are just going to have to fire people who don't have the vaccine because they can't enter those establishments. That's not right. The employer can't ask you about a lot of those things. Now, I know there's some exceptions made, for example, in a medical, like in a hospital for certain vaccines like hepatitis B and stuff like that, and that's a whole new can of worms. The thing that bothers me the most is the discrimination against people with disabilities or people with congenital disorders. That's not right. And beyond that, this shouldn't be the government mandating these things. If anyone's going to say, look, to come into our business, we want you to show us that you've had this vaccine, if that's a rule from the business, and you're free to say no. You can just be like, no, I'm not going to go to your place. But if it's the government doing it, then we have a problem, because the government is literally saying, here's a HIPAA violation. We don't care. We're doing it. That's no good. I know that the whole masking thing is such a huge debate. There's a bunch of literature out there on it. I've read a couple of studies. The two studies that I read, two of the three studies I read showed absolutely no real effects from having the mask. The masks just don't really do anything. The third one was a little more, okay. It could help. But nothing super definitive. I understand the reasoning behind it. So you're not spitting on people, but good grief. Wash your hands, be healthy. And speaking of being healthy, the one final thing that I want to touch on is all of these people, they're like, oh, here's what you need to be healthy. Wear your mask, get your shot. There's no mention of physical exercise, keeping your weight at a reasonable limit, getting outside, getting your vitamin D, boosting your immune system, eating properly. There's no mention of this. Why isn't there? If you can lose weight, go running. You lose weight, your cardiovascular system, which is the main thing that's attacked by COVID, your cardiorespiratory system. If you can strengthen those things, and then also spend some time outside, get that vitamin D, boost your immune system. If you eat a healthy diet where you're getting all your micronutrients, your vitamins and everything, I'm not saying that will prevent COVID. What I am saying is that it'll help your immune system to operate optimally. I had COVID last year. I was completely asymptomatic. I only found out because I had the antibodies, and the blood test had antibodies. But almost everyone I know has gotten the vaccine. I'm not opposed to people getting the vaccine if their doctor tells them, go ahead, like, this is right for you. You should talk to your doctor. I would never tell somebody do or don't do a medical procedure. I haven't finished school yet. I'm not qualified to make those calls. What I will say is, if someone chooses not to get a vaccine, that is their business. I did a training because I'm a course mentor for a graduate class this semester, and we had these people called vaccine ambassadors come talk to us. And basically what this was a group of people who they worked for the university, but their job was to basically teach us how to convince unwilling students to go get their vaccine. And I was appalled. I'm there to help students dissect a cadaver and learn about gross anatomy. I'm not there to even ask them if they've had their vaccine. I don't care if they've had their vaccine. I'm there to help students in the program, younger or lower in the program than me, to learn, things about the human body by dissecting a cadaver. I have no interest in anything that has to do with the vaccine with them. So it made me feel really angry that this is something that's even being promoted or considered by the university. Vaccine ambassadors. This is a thing, and it really needs to stop. That's about all I have to say. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, give it a like if you liked it. Comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.